Hello, hello, hello. I am so sorry. As my husband said, it's been like herding cats today. All right, so welcome to, whoa, I sat on something. Welcome to Hometown Americana. And this is the book I did last night in case you didn't see it. Let's get you turned the right way. That should be right. Be still and know. Old book. Used a little palette knife and just added some colors and a couple stencils. My girls have come down to see me. I need to grab my iPad and find us. So glad you're here. Could we make this any more challenging? I don't know. Showing me my events. That's not what I want. I want to find our group. Hang on. Sorry, guys. Groups. Hometown. There we are. Go up here. I see me, which is a good thing. Seen by 5 of you. That's also a good thing. So you knew I was running a little late. Hang on. One more thing. So I posted it on Reclaimed Wood. I just did that a few quick moments ago. Hopefully we're right set up. There we are. Okay. So let's grab that. Hello, Sharon. Okay. I'm a hot mess. Okay. So I just posted this. I just did this on a piece of scrap wood. It was fun. Of course, I wanted to utilize some of the reclaimed wood in this example too. So it was a little more dry brushy than what we're going to do primarily tonight. So I'm just going to set that aside. My studio is a hot, hot mess. It's been a week. Okay, and this is the reclaimed, or the Americana barn. And this is just done on my, excuse me, on my multimedia pad. I am going to point you down and get you so lined up. I'm going to do this on a 16 by 20 canvas. And the challenge with that is it's hard to get that in the screen properly. So hopefully we are going to do this all right. Make sure we see the, it's not going to be as important to see the top of it. Flip you right side up. Hello, Lisa. Just trying to get my item in view. One quick sec. Sorry, needed to grab one more thing. Just one more thing. Okay, so you should be able to see the top of my canvas, the bottom of my canvas. I'll be sitting down. Are we right side up? I need something with words. Hang on. Nope, we are. No, I should be right. Hello, Latisse. I'm glad you got in. All right, so here we go. Again, I always recommend that you watch this all the way through and then paint it. But if you're painting along with me, I try to do things in real time. I'm going to bring this down a little closer, I think. Did not rotate my phone. There we go. Okay. Top, bottom. All right. So if you have not put a pattern on yet, no worries. what I would suggest you do is when you put your pattern on, just put on the very basic shape of the barn. There's a little critter on my canvas. Ick, ick, ick. Okay. And then it is actually helpful to use a Sharpie to go over just these lines. So the outline of the barn and maybe the little window, maybe the flag, and where you've got the doorway down there. Don't worry about any of the other stuff, okay? So I actually like to, lift this up real quick, have a board underneath my canvas, both when I'm tracing it and oftentimes when I'm painting. If you were going to be taking this class with me in person, this is how your pattern would be on when you arrive for class, just so that you have some very good idea of what we're painting. Now, I also feel like many times when I transfer a pattern, it's not perfect. Painting isn't perfect, but if you're more of a perfectionist person, grab yourself a ruler and straighten some of your lines out. If you're not, it might be why we get along so well. What is going on with my iPad? Okay. I find this top window to be a little too rectangular. I find in my eye of a barn that could be a little more square. That's just my opinion. And so that is what I'm going to do right here. I'm going to square it off. Not square, square, but just a little bit more square than rectangle. Okay. This is going to be the shape of my flag, so that's okay. Anytime you use a Sharpie, make sure it is a Sharpie or a permanent marker that is waterproof, okay? Really important when we're painting. Really important, okay? So I've got this on. Did I miss a line? I might have missed a line. I think I missed the line that goes down here. It doesn't matter that much, really doesn't. You're not going to see those. Oops. So all we need to do to start off with is to paint our sky. When we paint our sky, I don't want you to think about this being part of your sky. I just want you to think about from about the tip of that roof line and however much you have covering your above your barn, okay? So for me, I'm going to worry about a little bit in this little peaked area, and I went a little bit across and over. Now I know the pattern said aqua sky. You can use any blue you want. And in fact, I didn't use that blue at all. I picked a couple blues I had, and I added a little more to my sky. So I'm just going to scooch this down. I have no idea why this keeps saying this. All right. So I'm going to scooch this down. Like I said, I just want to be able to do about that much. And so any blues, but this happens to be Indian turquoise. You can use the aqua sky, it's fine. That was just one color where I tend to like to use a couple colors. And this is a little baby blue, and I know it's almost gone. So I'm gonna, and I like to have a little white ready. Backwards. Now we're right? Let's double check that. Let's just double check. Give me something with some words on it. We should be okay. Hometown Americana. Okay, we're good. We're good. It should be. This is like you're looking over my shoulder as I'm painting, okay? So the colors I have on my plate to begin with are a couple shades of blue and a little bit of white. And then I pick up a little red too. And I'm just going to use a big brush. You can use a 1 inch if you have it. This happens to be probably a 3/4 inch. And all I'm going to do is start picking up a little bit of the blue, either one of them, or a mixture thereof. We're going to avoid hunks and chunks. And I'm just going to do it right next to my barn. I might even pick up a little white. I like the varying colors. If you are a more of a one color person, just pick up one color and work with it. I also like to hitch my edges if I can when I'm doing this. I'm not going to worry about it too much tonight. I'm coming down next to the edge of my barn. I'm just pulling it up on the skinny edge of my brush. I'm going to pull in a little bit of color here. Don't worry if you go over your lines. It's not a big deal. Picking up more. I'm working on canvas. Sometimes it helps to add a little bit of water to help move that paint around a little more. You will determine that based on how heavy you paint, how much you want there to be movement in your paint. So I've got most of that. I'm going to go down. It's probably far enough. Don't worry about it too much, okay? So here's what I did after I got the majority of my sky on, and it's still wet, okay? I went ahead and picked up a little more white here and there. Nothing fancy, okay? Just a little bit of extra white. Think of it as the idea, the very basic idea of clouds without forming them at all. Just having a little more color in my, I'm gonna pick up my canvas here, just hit my edges really quick. Okay. The other thing I like to do is sometimes pick up a little bit of a red that is going to be in my painting. I'm not sure. I know I'm not using the exact red. I'm picking up a little cherry red. So my brush is dirty. I'm going to pick up a little bit of paint, a little. And I'm going to streak a little bit of this in my sky. This is completely optional. You do not have to do this. But I just want to show you how I sometimes just play around with my skies a little bit, pull in a little extra color. Lots of paint. Hello, Becca. So just a little bit extra color in my sky. And again, I can pick up a little extra white. Your sky is probably going to be the least noticed thing on this piece. So don't fret, okay? Promise. Then I need one more promise from you, and that's going to be that I do not expect perfection, okay? It's going to be so much more fun if you just relax and let a lot of this be messy, okay? All right, so I've done that. I've pretty much got my blue where I want it. Go as far down as you want, but you really don't need to do more than that. So I'm going to go ahead and clean up my brush. And I'm going to grab a chip brush. So a chip brush is just an inexpensive, like it says, chip brush. I'm going to grab one. I use them for a lot of different things. They're very inexpensive. You can get them usually at your hardware stores, Michael's, Hobby Lobby, but I mean, and they take abuse. They take a licking and keep on ticking. We're going to use that to start putting in some of our ground, okay? Now, it's important for you to just take a really hard look at this. This is so far from perfection. It's messy, especially when I do those trees. Those trees are really messy, but that's okay. I'm going to set that down for a sec. because I want you to be able to see the bottom of the canvas. I'm coming all the way down here, and I'm going to start with that chip brush and some black paint. Black. Black, you say? Yes, black. So there's my black. And we're going to take up our chip brush. And I'm going to take a lot of it off on the side, okay? And I'm going to start down low. And I'm going to start tapping in this black. I'm going to go all the way up to my barn. I'm going to come up this high too. And catch my sides. Catching my sides over here. A little bit down below. I'm not worried about too much because I know I'm bringing in some other color. Went through that paint rather quickly. Uh-oh. That I did not mean to do. You can see that or not. So, real life, guys. Q-tip. Water. I'm picking it up and I'm rolling it. And that takes most of that away. Now that now means I have this spot right there that's not blended, but it's okay. Even that little bit of black is fine because my paint is still wet. Blended it together. We're good. All right, let's go back to this. Hang on. Okay, so I'm gonna go back to just tapping in some of this dark color. If you have different size surfaces, what I'm doing right now with the black is kind of determining where my ground is. So think about if you want to have a little bit of flowers, a lot of flowers, and that's going to be part of this area. If you didn't want this much, you could certainly shore it up or move your barn down further and have more sky. All right. So, yep, I still got a little white showing through. It's okay. Okay. So far, so easy. Okay. Now, while I still have this on my brush, I'm going to grab some of the dark green. That's Hauser Green Dark. And I'm going to go over the same areas. So I'm picking up the green. And I'm going to start going back over parts of this area. I'm not worried about the white showing because I know I've got lots of flowers coming in. But if it bothers you, make sure you are covering all that up. I'm catching my edges in the bottom here. I do my edges just in case I sell a piece that I'm not going to frame. At least that way it looks a little more finished on the wall. All right, so I've got this going on. Okay, so far so good. I'm going to take that chippy brush and I'm going to take some paper towels. I'm just going to wipe it off. I'm not cleaning it, I'm just wiping it off a little bit, okay? Then I am going to pick up a little more of the black. You can do this with your chip brush, or if it seems to be a little too intimidating or too big, you can always flip down to your 1-inch brush. I'm just going to lay down the first bit of color in my barn roof. All right, I'm going to flip over to my 3/4 inch brush or my 1-inch brush, and I can go ahead and fill in a little more of this if I want. I can even go on the edge to get closer to the lines. It does not need to be solid. I'm going to use just the edge of my brush. I'm going to come in and fill in this part. I'm going to fill in my little barn upper door with this black. And I'm going to fill in my barn door down here. All right, so we have that much done. I'm going to clean my brush off into my water. Okay, and I'm going to pick up some white paint. And I'm going to, my brush might not be super clean, but it's close. I'm going to kind of fill in what should be white on my barn. Now, you can just use mostly your canvas for this, but having the white paint will help us blend in the other colors that'll make it look more rustic barn-like. So I'm not being super careful. I'm just getting some white down on here. Don't worry if you get too close and you end up picking up a little black. It's okay, really, I promise. Or in this case, I picked up some from my area down below. I'm just trying to get some white paint on here so I can with some of the other colors, because I've got this white on here. I'm now going to pick up I still have this on my brush. See, it's not completely clean. I'm going to pull a little bit of this down on my roof. So what I've done, because the black is still wet and the white is wet, I have a gray that's kind of developed on my roof line. And I can use that and use the skinny edge of my brush and just start to drag some lines down into my barn so it starts to look a bit like wood. We'll be cleaning up the black and the white, so don't worry about it. We just want to get a little color going on here. Let me pull you up the it's about layering. So we've just started adding a little bit of those grays and blacks on here. Clean off your brush by just cleaning it up with a paper towel. Okay, go into the black. A couple more streaks in here. Being very, very sketchy. This little area in here is a little harder to do. Don't worry too much about it. Just get a little bit of color in there. I'm going to rinse my brush out. I'm going to pick up a little more white, and I'm going to go make stronger streaks on my barn roof. It's still going to blend some, and that's okay. Okay, don't worry about it. This is not the end all yet. We are just adding a little more white onto our barn roof. Chisel edge of that brush. Put a couple marks on this side to highlight it. Okay, rinse it out. And let's go on. I want to pick up a tiny bit of navy blue. This is optional, but I think it really just kind of adds to that rusticness of it. So I've kind of wiped my brush off, cleaned it off. I'm going to pick up a little bit of this navy blue. I'm going to wipe it off of my brush, and I'm going to here and there hit a little bit of this navy blue on my barn too. We'll come back over with white in just a minute, but until we do, let's go ahead and you can either use a small flat or you can use a round, whatever you're comfortable with. I think I'll use this round. And we're going to just make sure we've cleaned up any edges with the black that we need to make sure are good and clean. So like right down here, we're going to outline. Switching plates here. It's really tempting to sit there and want to play with the barn a lot, but trust me, by the time we put all the flowers on it, the barn is important, yes, but it is not actually all your eye sees. Oops. Just change the shape of my barn a little bit. That's okay. We're going to even it out. It happens. Okay. Let's take a smaller brush. You can use your 3/4 inch if you want, or you can go something a little smaller. I'm just going to add a little bit of highlight in the upper right of the barn door, and being very light. I'm barely touching. I'm going to pull some down, go across, but I want there to be this bit of lightness over here. Maybe just a tiny bit up in the barn too. Pick up a little bit just on the chisel edge of my brush. I've got that white on my brush. I'm picking more of the chisel, and I'm just going to lay down a little more white, even on top of that blue and gray, and help blend it in a little more. Sometimes we have to actually pick up a blow dryer and let it dry, or we're just blending into each other. All right, don't worry about it for now. We'll come back to it. So we've got this grassy area going. We're going to need to lighten it up a little bit. And we're going to do that by using that chip brush we had. We want this to look really distressed. I mean, even if you had to come back over it with your black chip brush. But down in here, we're going to pick up that chip brush. I didn't even wash mine. You can between. Remember, last thing we did was we had this green in here, right? So I'm going to pick up that green again. And I'm going to create some, what I like to call scary Italian trees, okay? So they're just going to come kind of up this way. 2 or 3 of them, so they're a little fatter at the bottom. Let them be fluffy and furry. Before you go in and lighten them up a little bit, pick up a round brush. I had a round brush. And I'm just going to pick up a little bit of that dark Hauser green, and I'm just going to kind of dab here and there. It is nothing fancy. It is just dabs and globs. Blah, 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 blah. More than anything, if it needs to help shape, you can do that. But trees aren't just one dimension. There's lots of dimensions to trees. So we've got that going on, right? Rinsing up my round brush. I'm going to go on to some citron green. It's a bright green. It's a little brighter and cleaner than like Hauser green light is. Same brush, just tapping a little bit. I'm going to lightly, so very lightly, just going back over these scary Italian trees. And I'm going to add a little bit of this lighter green here and there in our grassy area. Nothing particular, just here and there. But I also want to make sure I'm pulling some up from the base that looks a little more wispy. Just a different texture. You could even use your 3/4 inch brush and use the chisel edge. Oops, no water. So I'm pulling paint on both sides so I have a nice chisel edge, and I can pull more, almost like grassies. And pull some up this way, here and here, down in here. But you get different textures then, so it's not one-dimensional. And because your paint below it is probably still a little wet, it's going to blend on you. All right, we're going to flip back quickly to our barn because I forgot something. It happens. So go back to your navy blue. And this is the 3/4 inch brush. And paint in a field for your flag. This is a rustic flag. It's been hanging out in the barn. It is far from perfect. I'm going to rinse my brush. I could just use the white from my canvas, but I like to have, oops, I don't like to have blobs of water on my canvas. I like to have a little bit of a base. So I'm going to go in as cleanly as I can with the white. And I don't need to get right next to the blue. But I'm just going to go ahead and fill in the flag field with white a little bit. And when I have that white on my brush, I'm going to decide if I need to whiten up a little bit of my barn here and there. You may not. It's completely up to you. I'm going to put a couple little marks in my upper window here. Strengthen a little here. It's pretty good. Rinse my brush. I'm going to pick up a little bit of the red that I'm using. Any clean red works. Primary, Tuscan, this is cherry. That worked pretty well for me. And either use a small flat or a round. And we're going to put in some less than perfect lines for our flag, if that's dry enough. It might not be dry enough. I don't want pink. That's pretty good. If it seems like it's turning pink on you, wait or hit it with a blow dryer. I think I'm okay here. My lines are not perfectly straight. I'm actually standing up painting this with you tonight. Not something I do very often anymore. Again, this is a rustic flag. It's been hanging on the barn. Don't know how long. Rinse that red out of there, but while I still have the red there, pick up a little bit of black and a little bit of blue, wipe it off on my paper towel, and I'm just going to drag that darker color here and there. If it doesn't pick it up. If it picks it up too much, we might have to let it dry a moment. It's okay, we can go back and do that. Just helps age it a little bit. And then either with the tip of a round, tip of a liner, stylus, whatever you prefer, we're going to add some little white dots in our field. Now, if you have the time and you want to make this more authentically perfect, you could probably sit there and make little stars. I'm not going to do that today. Just going to make some dots here. Okay. Then I'm going to find me some black paint and a liner brush, or whatever I feel comfortable using to line with. I'm going to stay up in my pinky, and I'm just going to outline the flag with black. when you're lining, look where you're going, not where you're at. Our paint is pretty wet. My paint is pretty wet. So you may want to hit it with a blow dryer. Oops, picked up red there. Did not want to do that. I'm going to go back with the blue. I'm going to let that be. I might have to come back and hit that with a blow dryer, but I think we're okay. It's coming together pretty quickly. All right. I know this area for me right here is a little wet, and for what I want to do next might need to be hit with a blow dryer. I have something on my canvas I don't like. Hang on. All right, got rid of it. Hang on. So we're going to need some raw sienna paint. Raw sienna. What happened to that brush? Oh my goodness. It was in my clean brushes. We're going to need to put that in the dirty brush pile. All right, so I want some raw sienna, some white. And we're going to make our fence. Let me show you our fence. So the fence is against the barn and goes kind of off at a slight angle off your piece. Okay, so there's that one. Let me find the reclaimed wood one. Where did I put that? It's amazing to me, guys, that I cannot move and I can lose things. So again, it's next to the barn and then it just kind of goes off to the other side. So I think this works if you have a good size flat that you like. This is a 8. So I'm pulling my paint. So I'm loading it on both sides. And I'm going to start by putting a line right next to my fence. I know this is kind of wet, so this might not work. I'm losing it a bit as I go down. That's okay. I'm going to give it a little bit of space. This is an old farm fence, so it doesn't have to be completely straight, okay? I kind of think the more irregularities in it, the better it's going to look. This is very wet. There's no number that it's right or wrong to have. Okay. I haven't cleaned my brush yet. I'm just picking up a little more of the raw sienna and I'm going to pick up a little bit of white. I've kind of made a light raw sienna. And I'm going to go right back over them. And I'm really too wet to do that. You see what's happening? I'm just picking up my paint. I'm going to see if I can hit it with a blow dryer. Let's see. Okay, so I'm going to go back to the raw sienna plus white. So here's raw sienna and white. So I'm making a lighter raw sienna, and I'm going to go back over these. And again, I'm not being perfect at all. I wanted these to be kind of rough and rustic. doing the second color in here just to give them some variation. Okay, I'm gonna rinse my brush, set it aside. I'm gonna pick up something a little smaller, like a liner or a small round. I'm just gonna pick up some white paint, like I'm gonna do some white lining. And, oh shoot, what did I just step on? Oh, palette knife be gone. Uh-oh. On one side or the other, it doesn't matter which side, just pick one side and just very sketchily put lines down on one side. It's not like outlining them. It's very loose, very easy. Not blue, Tammy. White. How's it coming, guys? Is it making sense so far? Making a little sense, hopefully. Here's another one. All right, so that's the white. So I'm rinsing my brush, and now we're going to do the other side, again, very sketchy with black. So I'm not making this a perfect outline, and you may not see much of it. I didn't mean for that to be that dark, but that's okay. All right, we're going to put them together. I want to make them look a little bit like barbed wire. So give me a little grace here. Here's a fence post. Here's a fence post. Here's a fence post, okay? What we're going to do is we're going to start on the fence. And we're going to make like a frown. And then we're going to make a like, not happy, not sad. Then the frown. So you're basically doing this way, this way, this way, this way with black paint to kind of start connecting them. So I'm going to start up here on the, and about a third of the way down. Don't worry that you don't see it in between. We're going to fix that in a minute. And it's better if they don't completely connect, meaning you want them to be a little hither and thither. Then go about a third of the way from the bottom and do the same thing. Frowny, semi-smile, frowny, frowny. The frowns are on the fence posts themselves. Okay, rinse your brush. Okay. We're going to go back with white and just here and there touch parts of where it is more hidden and a little bit on the fence post itself to help highlight that barbed wire, so to speak. So I'm going back to my white. Sometimes I hit both sides of the, if it's really in a dark spot underneath the, where the trees are. Okay. If it needs any other accenting, like I think this could use a little bit up here to show the tops a little better. Now we want to make sure that that fence is behind any of the greens we have. So either with your chip brush, if you still have one going, or if you need to pick up another brush, pick up a little bit of your dark greens and your light greens, and just at the base of the fence, make sure that there's greenery covering the bottom of the fence. And use this time to just make sure you've got greens wherever you want, the dark or the light. Definitely want there to be greens up on our barn. And we can pull some on this way as well. Okay, what do you guys think so far? So far, so good? Hopefully, hopefully. I need to peek and see a time super quick. Okay, we're at 8. We are doing good. So now comes the time for adding flowers. And actually, before I add any flowers, I am going to take just a minute and look at my barn. A couple of little things I see is that I need to make sure I've cleaned up this line above my barn door, just so it's that one line should be nice and crisp across. Okay. You can look and see if you need a little more color in your roof at all. This one's got a lot of white in it, and I don't know what that is. It doesn't belong there. But you can see how rough that is, but how it looks really cool when it's all done. We're going to move on to doing some flowers, and I want to tell you that there's a lot of options you have with the flowers. The very first thing we're going to put in there is these white little spiky things. It just helps break up the ground a lot, and then it doesn't really matter if you're just going to do sunflowers, if you're going to do some spiky flowers, if you're going to add some daisies. I did do a little video for you guys on this, so hopefully you got a chance to look at that. The original pattern, this is actually an original piece from one of my business coaches, Heidi Easley, just had a couple really simple sunflowers and those white flowers in there. Oops, let's move. Am I doing the right way? Nope. Yeah, there you go. Okay. You see, she just had a couple little sunflowers. So either way, we're going to do them my way. So I started off with some pouncing flowers. Kind of fill in here and there. And I think they're great, especially over by the little fence we created. So I'm going to grab mine that has some red and some blue on it. And I'm going to pick up a brush that's just not exactly in perfect shape. Or if you have a scruffy brush, but this is fine. I'm going to pick up a little red. And see, this brush, because it's kind of scruffy, already has some texture to it. And I'm just going to start tapping in some red spikes here and there. They can be more down into my grassy area. I'm not pushing down very hard at all. I'm going to pull in a couple up here next to my fence too. Don't worry if your colors are kind of muddled. They'll clean up with some white here in just a minute. Okay, so I've still got that on my brush. I'm going to pick up some white. I'm going to tap lightly. And I'm going to very gently go back over all these flowers, not so much to change their color, but more to just make them not one-dimensional. Very light. Do I have any down here? I don't think so. Okay, so there's my red ones that I popped up that way. I'm not even going to clean my brush. I'm going to wipe it off on a paper towel. And I'm going to pick up a little bit of that red again. And I'm going to pick up a little bit of my blue. And I'm going to blend them together. And red and blue make purple. I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to pick up a couple little spots where I'd like some purple flowers. This is for the tall ones. If you wanted some little small ones lower, like Oh, the spring small flower are hyacinths? Hyacinths. I can talk, really. Like right in here looks really dark, but when I come back with my white, it won't look like that, okay? Trust the process. So I've got these purple ones, a couple purple ones there. I'm going to go and pick up my little bit of white, tap. And when I go back over these, then you see the lavenders popping out too. A little bit. If you don't like this kind of flower, don't put them in. That's my advice to you. I'm going to do a couple little ones down here. Didn't do them on any of my other ones. This is also a great way to hide any less than completely filled in canvas, possibly. Okay, so got some little green ones. Okay. All right. Could do this with yellow, could do this with white, you can do this with a number of colors. I think I'm okay with those there. So I'm going to rinse this for now. I'm going to come in with a round brush and my white, okay? Rolling my brush, I have a nice tip on it, and I'm going to just choose a couple lines that are going to be my white accent flowers here. They can go in either direction. They can start anywhere. Then all I'm going to do is pick up my round brush, and we're just going to use this spot here to show you. I'm going to set it down, lift, and pull. So it has a bit of a point at the end. So that's kind of how I'm going to make my petals off of all these. Petals, leaves, whatever they are. So push and lift. Push and lift. Reloading as I run out of paint. You can do as many of these as you want. But can you see how that kind of helps break up that, especially down here, this big amount of dark green, and you feel like you need one more right in here. And here's where you're going to start adding in any other flowers you like. One more right going up here. So we're going to add a couple sunflowers. Rinse my brush. The way I did my sunflowers was with yellow, raw sienna, and white, and then some brown for my centers. I did say I added brown. So here's my yellow. This is cad yellow. Here's a little raw sienna. Where did I put it? I am just going to grab some from this puddle here. And the way I like to make a sunflower is to first mix yellow and raw sienna to make a darker shade of yellow. You can also just pick up a darker shade of yellow that you have in your collection, okay? Golden yellow, okay? And then I'm going to start creating some petal shapes that kind of go around a circle. I'm not going to worry about my center yet because I can easily fill that in with my brown colors. So I'm going to call those my back or my shade petals. I'm going to do one there. I'm going to do one about here. If it's easier for you to have a center first, just draw yourself a center. And you can actually draw the shape of each petal in too. I'm just going to let my brush do most of the work for me. And I'm going to do one more about here. Again, if I need a center to work off of. This is yellow and raw sienna. It's my shade or my background petals. I'm going to let those be for just a moment or two. And while they're going to kind of dry over here, I'm going to go into just that straight cad yellow. I'm going to make a couple little ovals over on this other side. These are going to be where I'm going to place some daisies. Whenever we're working over such dark colors like this is done here, know you're probably going to have to give a second coat, okay? Especially on a lighter color. Now on my background petals over here, I think will be okay. Becca, thanks for stopping by. Remember, the replay is completely available later, so by all means, come back and check that out. We're going to continue with our sunflowers next. So let's get going. Okay, going back. I lost us for a quick moment here, but we will find us again. All right, so I've kind of let this, our first back petals, dry a little bit. I'm going to come back, and in between those petals, I'm going to go with the straight cadmium yellow, or what I did find that was helpful is to mix it with a little bit of white. So we've got cadmium yellow and white. What the white does is just makes it a little more opaque. I'm still going to need to come back and give it a second coat, but this way you'll probably see these a little better. And I'm going to make little petals, lighter petals, in between the darker petals. So very white. It's okay. I'm covering up part of my back petals. Sunflowers have very wonky petals. They really do in real life. I like trying to make ones that look like they've gone back up into the centers too at times. Okay, so right now I've just got the first layer of my top petals on here. Okay, let those be. I'm rinsing my brush. I'm going to use some brown. You can use burnt umber, you can use dark chocolate. It really is up to you. But I just thought that was a little better than the raw sienna for the centers of the sunflowers. And I'm just going to kind of tap that in. It's very rough, but just kind of, I want this brown center for these sunflowers. And we'll let that dry for a moment. I'm going to come back over and check on my little daisy centers. They might need a second coat. I can either do them now or I can do them after I lay in my petals. I'm going to go ahead and do this right now. And I'm going to show you an example of a daisy. I'll make it bigger here. So here's our center. Now your daisy petals are going to be white, or mine are going to be white, but they don't have to be. So you can see it on my white plate. I'm going to just do them with a pink. So I'm picking up a little red and a little white over on my other plate, just so you can see it. And I'm going to push down and lift as I go toward my center. So that's one petal. I'm going to push down and lift as I go toward my center. That's another petal. Get some more paint. I'm going to go maybe about a third of the way. I'm going to push down and I'm going to lift. And I'm just going to fill it in with however many petals I might need. Then come off to this side, push down, lift. And there's no magic number to petals, okay? So depending on if this is a full daisy or a partial daisy, I'm probably going to make these a little more shallow. But you make them uneven, and that helps give them a more realistic look. Again, you're going to be white petals. I was just showing you this with a pink so you could see it. So let me pick up some white, not the pink. So I'm picking up my brush, and I'm going to, I'm going to set it down, push, and pull toward the center. Set it down, push, and pull toward the center. And down toward the center. A couple little ones next to it, push down. A couple little ones next to it. And just a couple little smaller petals underneath. Now if it's one that I just want to have look like I don't have any top petals right now, you just don't put any on the top. I think what makes them work is when you have the different sizes of petals coming from different angles. But I do like starting off the 1, 2 on the opposite edge. I think that kind of helps create the main shape of your petals. One more up here. Sometimes they're not perfect. It's okay. So I do like to go back after I have my petals in there and make sure all my petals are connected to a center. So that's another reason to come back afterwards. You can either make this a base coat or you can just kind of tap it to make sure all those little ends go into a center. While we've got that light yellow, let's go back and do our second coat on our top petals. Obviously, you can make your flowers in front of your barn anything you want. They could all be sunflowers. They could all be daisies. They could all be something else. So I'm giving all the second or the more forward petals the yellow, but it's really making my back petals look dark. So I probably am going to want to hit those with a little bit of the yellow as well. Probably don't need to hit all of them, just like little bits and pieces. I'm going to rinse that. I'm going to go back over to my brown. And just like I did with my daisies, I'm going to make sure everything is connected here, either with tapping it in or just stroking over to make sure all those petals have a center. We're going to come in and darken that a little bit, but while I've got the brown on my brush, I'm just going to tap the brown next to the petals on the yellow. You can go all the way around, or you can just pick one side of them to do. Same deal with the centers of our sunflowers. Well, I'm going to pick up a little black. And tap around. Be kind of fuzzy with this. You don't want it to be like dots as much as you want it to be just like little bits of color around. Maybe even a little bit in the center. All right, then you just need to decide how much of a stem you want to see or how much of leaves you want to see. So it probably means going back into your lighter green. That's the citron green. And I'm just going to give this gal a stem here, this one a stem going off that way, this one the idea of a stem partially, and maybe pull a couple leaves. Be very loose. We don't want, these are not exact anythings. And the same thing with your daisies. You might want to pick up a little bit of small little leaves coming off of them, or maybe a cluster of little leaves. This pattern is, like I said, from one of my business coaches, Heidi Easley, and she's very gracious to allow us to teach you guys these. What do you think? You can go absolutely crazy with the flowers and add as many more as you want. There's things you can do. If your flag was a little smaller, you could actually highlight or personalize by putting a name above the door. There's just all sorts of stuff you can do. I'm going to lift you up. Doop-a-doo. Lift me around. Maybe there. Okay, so looking for some comments. Did you guys like this? Did that seem like a pretty easy painting to pull together? Here it is. There is the Americana barn. We've got all sorts of flowers. And let me pull up. It's easier for me to see on my iPad because I'm old and tired. It's been a week, guys. It's been a week. Okay. Oh, Sharon loves it. Thank you so much. And Becca's going to come back tomorrow, so that was great. So I'm going to bid you good night. If you've got any questions at all, let me know. I would love to see yours. You know, I would love to see yours. And if you share it here or share it on Shears, don't. Either way, it works well. So you got to see it in my multimedia pad. I just did it on the canvas for you. And this is a very warped piece of reclaimed wood. I'm hoping Hubs can maybe, when he feels better, maybe tape it off, cap it off, and make it a little straighter. Yeah, so that's what I've got for you guys for tonight. I'm done. I'm done. Have a great rest of your night, and we will see you soon. Take care. Bye-bye.